Hey humans, how's it going? Susan Ruth here. Thanks for listening to another episode of Hey Human Podcast. This is episode 149, and I sat down and had a conversation with Jamie Floyd. She is an artist, a songwriter, and a composer, and she has been pursuing her dreams since she was 11 years old. She has got really interesting stories. She talks about the ins and outs and the ups and downs, and I really enjoyed speaking with her. Very, very cool woman. By the way, if you saw the Burt Reynolds movie, and we talk about this a little bit, but I just want to give it an extra shout out. She and a songwriting partner, John Martin, wrote all the songs for the movie The Last Movie Star, starring Burt Reynolds. Super cool. She's got a lot of things going on right now. So anyway, it's a cool conversation. I'm looking forward to hearing it. I just want to get the usual stuff out there on iTunes. Please rate and review Hey Human. If you're an Amazon shopper, if you go through the heyhumanpodcast.com website, you'll see there is an Amazon portal on there. If you click on that and you shop Amazon just like normal, it helps support Hey Human, and I appreciate that. Helps keep it ad-free. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under Susan Ruthism, and Hey Human Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. So really, if you type in my name, you're probably going to find all these things in the old Google, the Googleatron. I have a website as well, susanruth.com. I do lots of other stuff, including music, so you can find links to all that on there. Speaking of links, see what I did there? On heyhumanpodcast.com, I curate quite an epic links page. Every episode has a section, and I try really hard to get a lot of information on there based on whatever it is we're talking about. So there's a lot of good stuff for Jamie's episode, including links to her music, which is cool. So definitely check that out. Next week is Eric Nadell, the voice of the Texas Rangers. So that's a fun one. We actually recorded that last summer, and I was waiting for baseball season to put it out. So that's next week. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. And I hope you're doing well out there in the world. Trying times sometimes, but just remember there's way more good people than bad people. So look for the good. All right, here we go. Jamie Floyd, welcome to Hey Human.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's lovely to see you. Welcome
Thank you. It's great to meet you.
My pod room.
We're in a really cute little space. It's adorable. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, this has been a little bit in the making. I learned of you obviously a while back because of your songwriting and artistry that way. And then I post a lot of stuff on Facebook, and one of my Facebook friends said, "You should talk to Jamie." Oh. So I was like, "All right, why not?" So here you are.
Well, I appreciate you reaching out.
Well, let's go back a little bit. Are you from Nashville, or where are you from?
I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida, originally.
As south as you can get, right?
That's right. As south as it gets. And I moved here 16 years ago.
Oh, wow.
This August. But I've been working here in town for 20 years or so.
As a performer and a writer?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I was signed to a production development deal under Epic Records when I was 11.
What?
And Rick Wake had signed me. He was the executive vice president back then. And so starting then is when I first started going back and forth to Nashville from Florida.
Oh my gosh. And was it country when you were 11?
It was. I was actually, the executive who signed me was head of the pop label of Epic in New York. And so a big part of my story and a big fork in the road was eventually, yes, I was in country music. That's what I wanted. But eventually they ended up offering me a pop record deal, and I didn't take it. And so that kind of was a big moment in my life. But yeah, all along I was country, and that's what I wanted to
Why?
stay.
I think for people listening, the idea, we always hear the stories about people getting their deals and then doing the next thing and moving up. Mm-hmm. You don't really get to hear about people who turn down deals, and for a lot of people that's an insane, why would you do that kind of thing. So what made you make that decision?
I think some of the best decisions that I have made as a business person in the music business have been deals that I've turned down, not deals that I've taken.
Interesting.
And so back then, I was 16 at the time. September 11th had just happened where the trade towers were hit, and we, all of my family's in New York, and of course the whole world stopped. And that was the same week of September 11th where I was supposed to have a big showcase here in Nashville for the labels here in Nashville. The big label in New York was going to kind of pass me off to one of them. So of course that didn't happen as planned. And that led to the vice president of the label calling me and saying, "Hey, Jamie, we can't really make it work in Nashville right now. A lot of things are complicated, obviously. Things are very unsure everywhere. However, we do have the means here to sign you as a pop act to this label, and I will fly you here tomorrow." Gave me the whole pitch. And I remember standing in my mom's bedroom on the call with the vice president of, his assistant put him through and everything. And
And you're 16.
And I'm 16.
That's a major decision.
And he had said, they were lovely. I had a really great experience with them. But he had said, you have to understand that you're not going to be able to do country music. You're going to have to sing the songs we give you. You're going to have to dress the way we tell you to dress. And, you'll still be in music, but you're going to have to do a different thing than what we've been pursuing with you. And I told him I wasn't interested in that. And he, there's like a silence, and he's like, "Wow," one of those where he's like, "I cannot believe you are turning this down." And I couldn't, even then, I could not pretend to be something that I was not. And I told him that. And his mind was blown. He was, they always had joked that Jamie was, 15 going on 35 in the business meetings and stuff that we had. So I think he expected me to have something to say, or have, not just go along with whatever was thrown at me. I put a lot of thought into things, and they knew that. And so I told him that I wasn't interested in that, and he said, "Okay, why, and I told him why, and he said, "You know what, I cannot believe you are turning this down, but at the same time, I have so much respect for you, I can't even believe this." And he said, "So here's what I'll do. Let's extend our contract for another 6 months. And if I can get you a record deal in Nashville," it was called a pass-through deal, basically, where the big label passes you through and participates in the investment. And he said, if I can get you a deal there, I will. And I'm going to work hard for you, and I'm going to try. I don't know what's going on down there. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm certainly going to try. And if we don't get it, then let's just part ways amicably. And we tried our best, and we'll just part ways at that point. So for the next 6 months, he did. They tried really hard, and Nashville, so much was frozen here. It was before country music had really come back, I guess is the best way to put it, and blown up again, and in a big way. And so we tried, and I wasn't able. And
you're
a
female. I mean, in Nashville, in country radio, there's only a few slots for females.
Well, back then, this is in 2001, 2002, so back then, there were still women on the radio.
I was just going to say, but back in the late 90s, the airwaves, it seemed, in country music
started to decline, I think.
Yeah, but there was, Patti Loveless and Mary Chapin and Trisha Yearwood
and Sarah Evans and
Martina, and it's the women were dominating, it seemed like.
Yeah,
what happened?
I don't know. I think people were making and are still making fear-based decisions.
Even the culture in general, from a more softer space to a more, aggressive stature, right? And
that's
so then men,
yes.
The songs like the boot in your ass type songs, all that began a culture of broing out.
Yeah, it kind of had opened the door to that style of music, which is fine. That happens in genres of music. You have different pockets of different styles.
It's a cycle.
But what ended up, but what ended up happening is it worked once, and because things were declining, I think everybody just gravitated business-wise to, okay, that worked. Well, let's do another one and another one, and then all of a sudden we're inundated.
Nashville does one thing very, very well, so it just keeps doing it over and over again.
And you know that I think it happens in all areas. There are always fads. There are always trends.
Of course.
And
this one's just lasting a little longer than normal.
Yeah, I think that's unfortunate because we've missed a lot of artists in that wave. We've missed a lot of people.
Well, for me, Ashley Monroe is a great example because you wrote a huge song for her, The Blade.
But yeah, she did incredible with that album.
And I don't understand why. I mean, I've been listening to her forever, you know, from way back. She's been on all my workout CD, you know, whatever. And it's shocking to me how many extraordinary female talent isn't played on the radio here.
Yes.
It's bizarre. For a quote-unquote music city.
I mean, you look at the voices that we had on the radio, like you were saying, Trisha Yearwood, and even those artists, those female artists from that time as well are still making music. People like Leanne Womack. I mean, it's
great
the
example.
fact that a voice like her, she is still 100% as good or better than she ever was. Make the same thing with her music, and you can't hear that on the radio, and it is infuriating. I was actually playing the Bluebird the other night on last Friday night with Adam Wright, who produces her music and co-produces it and writes so much of it with her. And he sat there in the round with us playing those songs, you know, in their most raw form from Leanne's past records and future records and everything. And
the songs are extraordinary. There's no other word for it.
I was so...
And her voice is extraordinary.
I was extremely frustrated in that moment because you're like, this is what's being put out. And if you put that side by side to what's on the radio, no wonder they're not playing it.
Yeah, because it's going to make everything look that much worse.
That's right. And I think a lot of times the argument is that people, that's what everybody wants. Well, you know what? That's all you have given them.
Yeah,
people will listen to what you give them.
Right, mediocrity is an easy pill to swallow because it neither shines nor.
That's right.
Nor makes you feel like less than, I suppose, is the best way to put it.
So getting comfortable right in the middle is not leaving any room for greatness on the radio.
Every once in a while, one slips through, and I marvel at that when a wonderful artist and song slips through for a hot minute. I think. It's almost like being in prison, looking out the window and watching a rose bush bloom, and then deciding to get shades that you never draw again. Right. It seems bizarre to me. Why would you want to do that? Why not? The world is hard enough, you know. Why is mediocrity the best meal that you want? It's so interesting. Why do you not want steak?
Right.
You know, I don't get it.
And you know,
or for the vegans out there, why do you not want a really great portobello?
It's so interesting because looking at it's taking a step back because you can't you like we were saying, you can't put those songs next to each other. And what's so interesting to me too is that they're all about the same night, the same girl, the phrasing is the same. It's the same song put to the same formula, only there's no subtlety. You know, it's pretty.
I've seen all those YouTube videos where
they stack them. Yeah, and that's real. Wild. I mean, I'm sorry, but it is.
But then you have also in pop music the accent. Have you ever watched Four Chords? The accents is awesome. Yeah, we've all seen that. Yeah. So it's not like country has got the only stake in that. Right.
I just think
repetition.
We're being extra overt.
Yeah.
You know, I think we've taken it to an extreme. You know,
I'm in agreement with you for sure.
I think, it's interesting. I have a dear friend of mine that I grew up with, Allie Tamposi, has written Havana and Justin Bieber songs and all these things, and extremely talented, but if you do listen to all her hits on the radio and Kelly Clarkson's Stronger, you know, there is an element of commerciality, but every one of those songs is interesting. Yeah. Yes, is different.
Melodically at the very least.
Right. Even if the chord structure, let's say, you know, are similar, you would never... You know, there's just a creativity around it that I'm just not hearing as much in country music.
I'm a big fan of pop, so you're not going to have to convince me too hard. I'm for smart pop. I always call it, you know, I make the distinction between the bubblegum pop, which has its place.
Right. And I have respect for that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I couldn't get through a workout without it, but, and you know, but this smart pop, I absolutely
There's crafting involved with all of it.
So much craft, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I agree.
Who are some of your musical heroes or sheroes?
Yeah. I grew up the daughter of 2 full-time musicians. That's my parents did. They have a band, and that's what they still do.
What's their band?
It's just called Tom and Joanne. Kind of old school. They got to Florida in the 80s and played, they used to play a lot of gigs in New York and, the, Northeast, and then they moved to Florida and played all the society gigs, so all the big parties in Palm Beach, basically, is what they did.
And what style did they do?
Like all old top 40, like everything that you would hear, from Jimmy Buffett to Spyro Gyra. I mean, just everything, old time rock and roll, all that. And so I grew up around their rehearsals, and I grew up around them playing everything, because they kind of had to learn everything when they played their gigs. And so I was introduced to country music, but also like funk and jazz at the same time as a kid. And so I remember really gravitating to George Strait, those incredible
Great
records he was
songs,
doing.
yeah.
Yes. When The Chair had first come out and all of that, those records. So I remember knowing, I think those were the first songs I ever knew by heart, because my mom used to sing to them to warm up when she was getting ready for work. And then my dad would be in our music room playing along with George Benson, who is an incredible artist. He's coming to the Ryman soon in May, and I hope to get to go see him. But I was exposed to the Georges, is what I call George Benson and George Strait, which are very two different artists. But I fell in love with different things about the both of them, which have made their way into my songwriting and have influenced me to this day.
Both have a lot of integrity for their music too. Saying a lot of integrity seems hilarious, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
They have integrity, period. End of story.
They really do.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a common thread there in the quality of what they both do and how authentic they are in
who they are.
Yeah, in both of their genres. But I would also say that Bonnie Raitt and Trisha Yearwood were too. So Trisha Yearwood became who I wanted to be. She performed songs. It's interesting, that had elements from that you could look at and trace back to George Benson, or that style of music, and George Strait, and the incredible songwriting that country music was always known for.
And these are artists that you're mentioning who you believe, at least for me, believe every word they're saying, no matter what they're singing, no matter which character they're embodying as they sing. And I do think there is a lack of that these days in country music, where you're hearing a song and they may be technically fine.
Sure.
And the song is well written for what it is, but
there's a heart.
It's more, it's not like I'm actually believing. Just because you can hit a high F doesn't mean I'm going to believe what you're saying.
Right. There was something very deep and emotional. You could hear the connection between, for instance, Trisha Yearwood and the song.
Oh, yeah,
like
Hearts and Armor?
Yes.
Oh, forget about it. Oh, man.
I know.
That song kills me.
Song
Remembers When, of course, is what she's super famous for, but Hearts and Armor is my all-time favorite.
Yeah, that whole record. I mean, all of her songs were songs that were inspiring in their own ways, and just something for somebody so young when I was, a kid, to listen to that and go, oh, this is what it should be like. That was kind of teaching me what country music was and how it was evolving, because she was really part of the evolution of how it was taking on a different face as Nashville changed as well. And she also, her voice was and is
perfection.
Yes,
I agree.
A voice that is just otherworldly and undeniable. And I feel like we're missing some undeniable artistry.
Which is so, again, fascinating to me, because there was the old saying in the music industry that if you are undeniable, that you will rise to the top regardless. I don't believe that that's true anymore.
Yep. I don't either. For instance, a dear friend of mine and songwriter and undeniable artist here in Nashville is Lucy Silvis. And
Great voice.
Yes.
Great. There's another person that interprets a song.
Yes.
Really understands the song.
Yes. When you want to speak about somebody at the level of Trisha Yearwood or the next generation, that is worthy to fill those shoes. It would be somebody like Lucy, and I have been very close to her in her career, and I have watched rooms, and whether we're in a room full of 500 people or 3, people are stunned by her, as they should be. And there's that kind of talent walking around, and she's having a lot of success finally here in the United States, and I'm really proud of her. But in my opinion, they just should have taken notice a lot faster, and I think that she deserves to have a big radio hit, with her new music. And it's very infuriating that I don't hear that on country radio, or, it just makes me like, bah,
yeah. My friend Jennifer of Smithfield and I went to breakfast the other day, and she said, man, radio, it's a bloodbath. There's, there's X amount of spots, and if you're not on a major label, firstly, you're already swimming upstream, and then there's, are you a girl? Are you a boy? Are you, who are you on tour? How much money has XM took a shine? Been, does iHeart love you? Who? Where's the love? And this is all these things. I don't know that people really understand how incredibly difficult it is to get on the radio these days.
Yeah, the nice thing is, I feel like it is. And this is a fact, not really an opinion, but radio is kind of going away.
Sure.
And their model is changing, just how our model changed with streaming from the artist and songwriter side. So yes, there are powers that be, and yes, radio is a very powerful machine to want to get into if you are an artist. However, I feel like if, in Lucy's case, for instance, if you're putting out music at that level, there are ways for people to still find you on that large of a scale.
Well, streaming,
that's what you have to.
Sure. That's the double-edged sword, because we don't, as writers and the creator of content, as we all know, that we are not compensated.
Right.
It's as if I opened a restaurant and people came in, had a huge meal, and left, 6 cents on the table, even though the meal may have cost $1,000.
That's right. That's the thing here with technology changing. It's like, okay, you can't get on the radio. Okay, but you can still reach people via the internet. Let's just, be broad about it. And yet, now that income stream and that model, I guess, has become an area, like you were saying, where we can't be compensated for.
Yeah.
So that's something I've been involved in a lot with NSAI.
Yeah. And they're fighting hard, but
it's been really disgusting to watch recently, as we finally came to a resolution, and it was a step in the right direction. It wasn't it's all fixed. Yes, it wasn't that we fixed it. It's that for the first time in 100 years we finally got something in our favor, because we are the little fish. Of course, Spotify and everyone else are the billionaires, and yet we're providing.
My first stream check on my Reba cut was 1.5 million streams, and it was $1.37, which if that would have been terrestrial radio,
right,
it would have been an enormous check.
That is right. So you think about, same here, looking at
the Blade, for example.
Yes,
probably.
Yeah, looking at right when Ashley's version of the Blade first came out, I had one come out as well, along with an EP. And if people had purchased, from iTunes, let's say, if they had purchased the amount of songs that they had streamed, if they had purchased what they had streamed, because you can see that side by side when you get these reports, sure. I not only would have been reimbursed for, what it cost me to make the record, I would have not had to work in a restaurant for that whole year. And yet, and that's the best case scenario. That's me owning my masters and everything else.
Which is not the usual scenario.
Right. And so that's the best case scenario. And just on the songwriting alone, had I been paid for what was streamed, my life financially, I could have supported myself, is the point. I mean, that's and it's greed.
And I'm not sure where the disconnect is even with the consumers, because it's not like they're not hearing this over and over again. It's a hard habit to break, I suppose. Right. And the
thing is, there's nothing wrong. I mean, people are going to get music the way that technology has dictated, and of course you want them to. This is on these companies who are
the Googles,
taking
the Amazons, the Spotify's.
Yes, who are building their billion-dollar empires on our backs and are just got greedy because they saw how much money could be made, and instead of taking their fair share for being the middleman, they are paying themselves as though they are the content creators and we are the middleman.
And guess what? Labels own stock in Spotify.
Right. It goes real deep. I'm pretty sure it goes real deep. And having been in Washington and sitting in front of the movers and shakers, both who have been in favor and not in favor of songwriters and our rights, it's discouraging on one hand because you see the power and you see how small we collectively are in comparison to the power. But then at the same time, you see that we have absolute warriors in there, both in our government and just those, people on our side, from our different organizations that are fighting for us.
And you bring up that you've waitressed for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's how you support yourself. And, for many of us songwriters and performing artists, painters, dancers, all of it, creators of creative content, original creative content, or sometimes not so original, there is that cliche of the poverty life. Right. And, you're not doing this for the money, but it wouldn't hurt to be able to pay our bills.
Right. What's interesting is that I, in recent years, when I have been my own publisher, I wrote the entire soundtrack to a major motion picture.
That's right. Talk about that for a minute.
I mean, I got to write all the music while waiting tables full time. I wrote the entire original, co-wrote with my friend John Martin, co-wrote the entire original major motion picture soundtrack to Burt Reynolds' final film. Which
was a great film, by the way.
Thank you.
I loved that. I cried.
Thanks. Yeah.
I felt that was a film that finally, The Last Movie Star, so we're talking about, and it actually really, I felt I was watching him be him. Yeah. But it was like telling his story in its own way.
I think it was a beautiful
send-off
for him. Yeah.
Well, that's a huge deal that you...
It was amazing. My point that I'm trying to make with the fact that, okay, I, in this town, trying to prove myself at least worthy of a publishing deal, in that time. So I, have an entire major motion picture soundtrack. I have, coming off of the title track of a Grammy-nominated album that I wrote, and even now, I just was offered to become the composer of all the original music to a new Broadway play out of New York.
Congratulations! We'll talk about that too.
Thank you. And I mean, I have, and of course, we have things as songwriters when you get cuts and you can't speak about them yet, and I have things in the pipeline that I can't talk about yet because they're not out. It's not news yet. But I'm so frustrated that I feel like I've worked so hard to prove myself, and then I go into these meetings and they either tell me we're not signing women, or we have one slot, we don't have a woman. We have 8 male songwriters, and I guess we need a girl, or whatever. Like these weird, odd scenarios.
And I think people don't really believe that happens, but it does. I remember a few years ago, I took a meeting in town with a relatively large publishing company, indie publishing, but still relatively large. Had the meeting, was there for 2 hours. They wanted to keep hearing songs. It went really well. It was wonderful. Left that meeting feeling pretty good, except for the fact that they said, we're not signing any women right now. They actually said, which in any other industry would be firstly a crime, right? It's a major lawsuit waiting to happen. Yeah. And I thought, okay, all right, that's fine, whatever. And not like I'm surprised. And then the next day, one of my co-writers on a couple songs had a meeting with the same company. They were very excited, played the same songs, and said, oh, Susan Ruth, she was here yesterday. She's a really great writer, but we're not signing girls right now. And this was a guy, my co-writer on those particular songs. He said, can you believe they said that? I'm like, yeah, they weren't afraid to tell me that straight up.
Right. You know what, though? What I will say, though, it has, all these years spent in Nashville, quote, trying to get a publishing deal. What this has done for me, it's first of all empowered me to know that I can... In the years where I have not had a publisher, I've had more happen
I'm so
in a
down
smaller
with that.
amount of time.
Absolutely.
Coming out of 5 and 6 publishing major deals over the
Absolutely.
years, I have been able to make more happen for myself while I have been an independent publisher. So I started to go, wait, what am I needing? What am I looking for? Okay, yes, do you get a salary, to write songs when you're with a publisher? Sure. But let's think about the big picture here. If these people whoever they are, the ones signing girls or not, but if this community of publishers doesn't see a value in me, that's okay, because now I've been motivated and I've shown myself what I'm capable of. So if the salary is the only thing
holding you back,
the problem, well, guess what? I can figure that out. I can pay myself, which is what I've decided to do. If you can't join them, beat them.
Absolutely. It's that, I always say, it's that moment in Pretty Woman where she comes in and she says, big mistake, huge.
Yes, exactly. That is what I mean. Big mistake, huge mistake. Because what I'm going to do now, my new goal, is to not get a publishing deal.
Good for you.
I don't want a publishing deal. I want to have enough success where I am my own publisher.
It's a huge difference in checks, by the way, when you're your own publisher.
Yes, because my track record as a publisher is better than anybody ever signed with.
Yeah.
So who do I want to be signed with? I want to be signed to me. And you know what? Down the road, maybe I find a partner, an investor to invest in my company.
Sure.
But you know what? Moving forward...
It's very powerful.
Yes. Moving forward, my dream is to be my own publisher and to not have to lean on anybody else. And that's up to me. It's my risk and my reward. And I think you just have to believe in yourself no matter how many doors are shut in your face.
Well, no one works for you as hard as you do.
That's right.
And regardless,
you have to take it into your own hands. Yeah. And who knows, maybe... if you're a songwriter out there, maybe a huge publisher signs you, which is awesome.
It's
That's
great to have
too.
a paycheck. It is. But if you can make it without that,
especially in this day and age of streaming and everything else, if you can own the masters, if you can, as much as you can own, the better.
And exactly. The more that you're guiding your own ship, the better. I was signed for a couple of years to a publisher that actually had more females than males on the roster, Deluge, and it was great for the 2 years I was there. It was nice to have a kind of a family, and having that monthly paycheck did not suck. Mm-hmm. But in the end, I know that I'm so much happier without a publisher.
And you know what? I think the key is finding a champion, because I've had publishing deals. For instance, Steve Seskin, who's an incredible writer. He wrote every number one song in the 90s for country music, just huge hits, and an incredible songwriter. He didn't even have a publishing company, and he saw something in me after writing with me for the first time, and I was signed to him for 4 years. That was an incredible gift. That was a champion. If you can find somebody who's a champion, great. But you know what? If you can't find a champion, you have to be your own.
And I would even go so far as to say start with being your own.
Absolutely.
And then find the second.
And that's something I learned being in Nashville. And you're absolutely right. That's something I learned over the years. I thought that I had to find that in somebody else. And with all of them just turning a blind eye to any success or any value that I've created in and for myself, it made me realize that I had to be the champion first. Yeah,
I said in my BMI rep once, this was years ago, I said, hey, I've got some number ones in other countries on various artists. Yeah. Does anyone in Nashville care? No, they don't care.
No, they don't. They don't even care if you have anything in this country, which, it's just, but what they do care about is a lot of times if you, at this point where we are is you have to have already done all the work and just give it to them, which I'm not interested in.
Not anymore.
Right. Not anymore.
So talk about the Broadway thing. That's exciting. How did that come to be?
So again, when I became my own publisher again after a long time in 2013, I decided to see what would happen, if I just went for it. And a few months into that deal, I had... because of my relationships with writers and producers in California, I had somebody call me while I was working, bartending, saying, hey, Dolly Parton has this Christmas movie coming out and we don't have the finale song and you're going to write it. And I had never written for a film before. I ended up writing the song overnight, recording it overnight, turning it in. They accepted it. They were like, what? You just, you fixed this. Well, you fix another song in the movie, which I did that too. Overnight, I didn't sleep for like 48 hours. And
do you have your own studio?
I don't. I basically wrote all the songs at my house, and then I just called a friend of mine and went to their studio at 4 a.m. Okay. And thank God LA was time difference worked out perfectly. But all of that to say, the music director over that film was an executive, a former Lifetime executive named Marianne Good, and she now has her own company called the All Media Music Group. And at the time, she was who I was dealing with. You know, she was kind of the head of the music for that film. And she got to know me and saw that I turned in these 2 songs overnight. Was like, I don't know who you are, but but thank you. You know, this is great. Like, you know, and I developed a relationship with her and a reputation with her. And she called me again for another film for Lifetime and Hallmark and Discovery, kind of under that umbrella, the A&E umbrella. And I wrote all of that music by myself as well.
Wow.
And again, I turned it around overnight. You know, music for the whole film, just did it.
Is this composing and lyric melody?
Yeah, this is original songs. So all the original songs in a movie called Manson's Lost Girls I had done for her. That was the second film I did for her. And it was a success. You know, it was, I just did my best. And she came to me and she said, do you understand that you're a project writer? Do you know that's what you're doing? That's what you're able to do? And I had no idea. I was like, okay, sure. You know, it's just kind of like, you just take the opportunity and say yes, and hopefully you get it. Hopefully it's good enough. And so I had done that with her. And so she asked to represent me. She was like, I want to represent you. You know, I want to, if I find anything for you, I would love to bring it to you and make people aware of you should you fit.
Like an agent.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Like an agent. And so I had just been going about my business. I had just pretty much accepted to the casting offer for a show called Real Country on the USA Network last year.
Which you did very well.
Thank you. Yeah,
congratulations on that.
It was an amazing, my life is very extremes. I had last year, when this Broadway situation had come to me from Marianne, I basically had lost the publishing deal I had worked for 4 years to get. They pulled out before the year was over, and it was a really dark and not good situation that I was really blessed to get out of. So I was kind of cast aside by them. And within the month, I get offered to be casted for this new show that Shania Twain is executive producing. And I get a call. That's Real Country. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I get a call from Marianne saying, there's a new Broadway play in development that I think you might be a match for. I would love to put you in contact, you know, with these people. And it was a really interesting thing to think about being a part of, because this Broadway play right now, it's tentatively called Two Queens, the working title. It is all female run. And it is a lot of time in Broadway, just like Hollywood, a lot of the big guns are men. And so this is a play that's going to be hopefully directed. We haven't brought on a director, but it's definitely, all of the music is going to, everything you hear is going to be composed by me. The play has been written by a playwright named Melissa Annis, who is from Wales, but she lives in New York City, an incredible award-winning playwright. And then right now, the lead producer is someone named Jennifer Krantz, who was also a former executive of marketing at Lifetime and left to pursue producing Broadway musicals. And so it's just such an exciting opportunity, and kind of hit it off with them. And I got the official offer in December. And
so exciting.
Yeah. And it's basically, I'm excited for everyone to see it once we get everything together. But it's also, believe it or not, it's kind of empowering for women, and the play is actually based on Henry VIII and his first 2 wives, so Catherine
it's a hell of a story.
Anne Boleyn. And so what we've done is the history has been written by men, and we're looking at it through a different lens, as though the history maybe had been written by women, or maybe exploring what the truth might have been behind behind Anne and Catherine's motivations with Henry. And maybe they were, history tells us that they were working on just furthering women and their equality at that time. I mean, this was a time when women had like cages on their faces and things. Yeah. And so
I don't really know a lot about Catherine of Aragon, but I know that Anne Boleyn was, she's a badass, firstly. She took no prisoners. Right.
The 2 of them, history shows that the 2 of them were working very hard for literacy among women, and just working to change the dynamic. And our story kind of shows how the 2 of them may have worked together to further equality, and it centers around their friendship. And and I'm just honored to get to write the songs, and I have I'll start previewing the songs in my shows, which I did at the Bluebird the other night as well. So it's very exciting, and also
I think that would be an incredible project to be able to tell those stories through song.
So
and it speaks a lot to how good you are at your craft, because that's another level.
It is certainly an undertaking. I have never written all of the music for a theatrical production before, but having come off of written the soundtrack that I had for the last movie Star, gave me a confidence and also an understanding as far as composing a body of work.
It's a scope
to a script.
And you have to consider different voicings. I mean, not someone's an alto, someone's a soprano. That changes the melody. That there's
and just there's so much to think about, and how changing melodies and things affect the emotion and how the characters speak, and so much to think about and to learn still. But I'm very excited that they're taking a chance on me, and that they see something in me that
it's wonderful,
that they think can help.
It is an interesting experience to go, say, on YouTube, watch a clip of a movie, any movie, and I'm sure there's side-by-sides out there. Watch it first with the music that's in there, and then watch it without, and see how different it feels.
That's something that NSAI utilized in Washington to kind of explain to lawmakers who, we don't expect them to understand the inner workings of a music business, so the best way to show them is to be like, okay, so here's the impact of music, just very quickly, a beautiful example with film or television or whatever. You take the music away, and it's not the same.
Yeah, if you've ever jumped up and down to a song or shed tears to a song, then music has affected you.
Right. You danced to it at your wedding.
Or whatever.
You associate it when you dropped your kid
If you
off
heard
at
that
college.
story and said, wow, that's exactly how I'm feeling right now, but I didn't know how to articulate it. If you made a mixtape or a mix CD or, I don't know, a playlist these days, it's huge.
You fall in love and out of love to songs. I mean, it's something that should be
it's a tapestry
respected.
Of our life, of all of our lives,
and regarded for those people who create that and share that. And it's they deserve to at least pay their bills.
Yes, I agree. As a 16-year-old girl, hoping for stardom, as your career has ebbed and flowed as careers do, how did you find peace with wherever you are whenever you were there? You know what I mean? To be here now. How did? Because it's super hard to not look backwards and look forwards and not be exactly where you are. Right. As a creative or as anyone, as a human being.
Yeah, I think I've seen in the darker times, especially when I thought, okay, all is truly lost. They have always been followed. Those times have always been followed by not just something encouraging, but something life-changing. So every time that I have felt like I've not ended up where I thought I would be based on, how I'd proven myself, or just with the experience, or with, just building a name for yourself, how it truly, when I felt like it truly doesn't matter or hasn't mattered and doesn't count, I have been given an opportunity almost immediately after the fact that has taken me to another level, even if I'm still in the same place, if that makes sense. So if I'm still working in a restaurant, which I am, right? And yet I'm given this responsibility, honestly, like it feels like a cultural responsibility with this Broadway play. At least if we do our jobs right, it should have an impact. That's our job, to make sure that it has an impact and on our culture, and to have that responsibility given to me, even though some may view me as just their waitress, It's kind of like my little secret that keeps me. The fact that I've been given that responsibility means something, even if this town or this state or this business doesn't necessarily recognize that. And maybe if I'm not regarded in terms of a publishing deal, not regarded as a professional writer, I have found my way to still be one, even if I'm not labeled one, if that makes sense, or even if maybe outward appearance doesn't first tell you that. But I just feel like I know that this has not been for nothing, even if I'm not where I quote should be, right now.
Well, and you bring up such a good point. It's nobody else gets to define who you are. Right. No one is truly allowed the real estate of your mind and your soul and your body. Right. You get to determine what success means. It's really hard to freaking remember that.
And it's funny what most people ask me, like, why do you tell people you wait tables? Like, why do you do that? In the age of social media where it's like, you need to be perfect and everything's great all the time. And I'm in France and now I'm, you know what I mean? I'm taking trips for no reason and all these things,
Paris, Tennessee.
Where it just looks like you're living a life of grandeur or just with zero turmoil or anything. Right. I am proud. I am proud of that. I am proud to say, yes, I can work full-time in a restaurant and write an entire soundtrack. Yes, I can write all of the music for a Broadway play and literally work full-time in a restaurant and try and go tour and do all these things. And still write commercial music for artists, for myself, and I'm hoping to do those things well, and I'm able to. I have the focus, and I have a well of creativity that even if it is unrecognized by the powers that be, it still exists.
Right, and I think that is a really important thing to say, is that no matter what, if it is in you. Mm-hmm. I've had friends who have quit music, and I often say, how? Tell me your secret. Tell me what the magical elixir is to make me stop having this in my body.
I know. It feels like even though things haven't worked out the way maybe that I initially pictured them working out, with this kind of the narrative that's come from the struggle has made it so much richer. The fact that I was on TV getting a standing ovation from Shania Twain, and a few nights later I was back waiting tables in a restaurant like nothing had happened. Sure. That, I will say, for anybody out there who is a creative person, it's very, what's hard is the switch back, but if anything, you can use that as fuel, I think. And it is, the hardest part is when you do, like you have this huge song or you have, some kind of big accomplishment in your world, and everybody else acts like it never happened. That's the hardest part, but you have to, you learn, I will say from experience, you learn to not take that on, and you learn to be proud of it, and to be I'm proud of my circumstances, because when I'm able to do this full time, it will have been because I fought for it.
Sure.
And
it's all,
it's important.
All of it is,
able to say.
In its own way, a character. You're a character in a different play. Mm-hmm. When you're a waitress, you're a waitress in that play. And when you're a composer, you're a character composing in that play. Right. And then and when you're performing on stage, you're that character performing on stage. If none of it is real and all of it is real, then it gets to be whatever you want it to be. And I have found that when parents will say, it doesn't matter what you accomplish. And my parents will say, well, when do you think it is that you're going to make this happen, that? And I say, well, I've made all these other things happen. Right. And, seeking approval from parents is age old, of course. But if they were to say, wow, everything you've done is amazing and miraculous, then I would turn to the person who maybe wasn't that enthralled. Because we're constantly seeking a validation from those who refuse to give it. Right. And instead, if it came from inside, something that, again, I say is extraordinarily difficult, but it's so important, that understanding that everywhere you are is perfect.
Right. I've come to accept that you have to or I've come to practice that you have to allow everything to be as it is, because where you are right now is where you were meant to be. That's why you're here. That's why you are where you are.
Sure.
And so if you look at things in that way, then all of a sudden you're not reaching, you're content where you are, because you know that that's where you're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And that's what's really helped me in harder nights at the restaurant, where I look around and go, what's happening, or how did I end up here? And for some reason, if I can accept that that's where I was supposed to be, then gets me to, it gets me through the night. It gets me through to the next Broadway show that comes my way, or, whatever it is. That's the hardest thing.
It is. It really is. But God, doesn't it make it so much sweeter?
Yeah.
When you get those phone calls.
Oh my God, yeah.
You're going to make me cry. When you get those phone calls and you're sitting there thinking, as you said, yesterday I was here and now I'm here. And none of it makes sense.
Right. Coming up to, I had tears in my eyes when I found this out. I have a show that I'm playing with Desmond Child and Kix Brooks from Brooks and Dunn. And I've waited on both of them, over the years and really difficult times in my life. And I just remember waiting on them because, of course, you go, oh my God, I grew up listening to your music. And here you are, you're so close, but
it's
you're so far.
It's like being on the other side of a glass partition.
Yes. And now I'm going to sit on stage with them. And I told my mom, I'm like, I don't know, I've done a lot of cool shows, but I feel like this is one of the biggest full circle moments that I'll ever have, because I'm going to look to my left and my right and be like, I've watched you win Grammys. I've watched you win Grammys. I've listened, you listen to your songs on the radio, and I've also waited on the both of you. Yeah. And here I am sitting in the middle of you on stage. It's and then the next night I'll go back to waiting tables.
Have you been at the same restaurant this whole time?
No, I've been, worked a few different places in Nashville. Right now I'm at Josephine and 12 South.
Oh, here. I like that place.
Yeah, I've been there for, it'll be
great Brussels sprouts.
That's right. That's right. That is
fan.
true. Oh yeah, everybody
Big fan
loves
of the
those.
Brussels sprouts.
Come on down, we got them.
So you're getting a director for the Broadway play.
Yep.
And now are you beholden? Do you have to turn in, this is where I am right now with the songs, and somebody says, yes, this is good, or because you have the script that you're writing it to?
Yeah, right, exactly. So Jennifer Krantz conceived of this storyline, and she brought on Melissa Annis, and the two of them have worked on this for the past few years, and then they have just brought me in. So the three of us right now are kind of the foundation of this, and we are getting ready to record the songs in May, some demos of the kind of cornerstone songs, and getting ready to go for the next step in getting it produced, and looking at bringing on hopefully a really powerful female director.
It's really exciting.
Who knows, so it's exciting.
So maybe somewhere next year.
I'd hope so.
Time.
I think I kind of warned everybody, when I came on, I'm like, I am gonna send you a lot of songs. I'm gonna be on this. I'm gonna be very
it's good to overwrite, I think.
Yeah, and so
really
I think.
Choosy.
Yeah, I don't think initially Marianne, my agent, I think warned them don't worry, Jamie's going to give you plenty. But I don't think they were expecting me to turn in everything as quickly as I have. And I've just been really on top of it. So we are, I think, further along in our process than they expected us to be, which is great. But it's been, so far, it's been very exciting. And I think the sky's the limit for this, especially, I think, once people hear the beautiful and powerful story that Melissa and Jen have worked on, and paired with music that I hope is emotionally also powerful enough to drive it home.
Right, because as everyone who's ever purchased a soundtrack knows, that to be able to listen to the music
have it bring you back
and have it be the story as well as the story itself with dialogue. It's a major
to have to write music that's worthy of the story that Melissa and Jen have crafted is definitely a challenge, but also one that I am confident in that the three of us are going to be able to realize a really beautiful and hopefully unforgettable production that nobody's experienced before.
Are you proud of yourself?
Yeah, I think it took a long time to get there because
Yeah.
the first emotion of a lot of us is going, you didn't do enough, and only in the recent years as I've kind of surprised myself with what I've been able to do. I've done things probably in the last 2 years that I didn't know if I could actually accomplish, or if I was, I don't know, just good enough to accomplish is the most plain way to put it. But I've very slowly come to the point of going, you know what? You should be proud of that. End of story. No but, no, right. Or, it just, the answer should be yes at this point, and it wasn't for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's part of, as you get older, being able to look back on everything, the perspective really, it's something that only comes with time.
Yeah. How does your girlness, your femaleness, your womanhood figure into all of it? Do you think about that much?
Yeah, I think that it has, first of all, I think it has given me the perspective and the uniqueness that I am as a songwriter. I think that is just found in a woman's heart. A lot of that is, and so I'm glad to have that. But at the same time, on the other end of the spectrum, I've been very aware of it. When I've lost my last deal, just kind of being told that, you just don't talk, the idea of that you just be quiet and be pretty and don't talk about the hard stuff, don't talk about, just don't talk. and or take it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Take it is
just
a big one.
Just take it.
Yeah.
Just take it.
Industry parties especially, when there's the errant hand on your ass and you're like, excuse me.
Yeah, just take it, it's a sad truth, but again, I have never been one to back down. And a lot of people have learned that in this industry, and I have a lot of respect for everybody here and what they're trying to accomplish, but at the same time, I'm certainly not going to accept any less respect or I'm just not going to be treated in ways that are unacceptable. And I'm going to tell you that.
You want to be an equal.
That's right. And I'm going to speak up. Yeah. And I'm not going to be quiet, and I'm not going to not talk about injustices, because if you don't want me to talk about it, your actions shouldn't have been what they were. And that's male, female, I don't care who you are. That's the bottom line, know? And so, over the years I have been aware of it, but I've been unwilling to accept the terms of that, that are imposed because you're a woman or because you're not this or not that. No, I'm not going to accept any boundaries, and they may still be in place and the walls may be there and I may not be able to break them down, but I hope to fly over them.
Amen to that. Do you think you'll stay in Nashville?
Yeah, I think I'll stay my home base here, but I've always wanted to live in New York, like not permanently, but I've always wanted to be there. So I think once we hopefully finally go to Broadway, that I'll be able to be there and it'll feel like I'm living there for a while. But I would love to be able to go coast to coast, have a place for the music business in LA and have a place to go to in New York, but then have a home here. I think that would be the dream. Yeah.
Tell people how to find you out there in the wild.
Yeah, out there in the wild. You can go to officialjamiefloyd.com, and it's Jamie, Floyd like Pink Floyd. Everybody remembers that. Officialjamiefloyd.com, and that will kind of connect you to, Jamie, just at Jamie Floyd on Instagram. Yeah, so that's like one hub you can go to for everything. And yeah, I would
and you're on all the socials and all that.
Yes, Twitter is Jamie Floyd Music, Instagram is Jamie Floyd, Facebook is Jamie Floyd Music. So I'm out there, but the main hub would be the website officialjamiefloyd.com. What do you think you would tell your 11-year-old self, your 16-year-old self now, back then? It's such an emotional thing. I think I would say that no matter what they say, give what you believe and what you know the most weight. Mm. Whatever you hear, whatever you hear, give yourself give yourself the benefit of the doubt and give yourself the last word. That's what I would say. Just take the good and leave the bad as fast as you can, and don't, because I think everybody has that initial voice in your head or your heart that tells you what you love and
who you are.
Yeah. And do not let anybody replace that voice. And do not let anybody speak over it, and just keep hearing that for as long as you can. Listen to what you know to be true, and who you are at your core, and don't let anybody question or change it.
Yeah, I think you're extraordinary. I'm really glad.
And we're all crying.
I'm really glad that... No. You know what?
It's intense.
Emotions, I'm a big fan. I think if more people were in touch with that part of themselves, we'd be far better off. So I welcome emotions of all kinds.
Yep. It's been a long road, and so...
and it is a long road. But it sounds like you are in the driver's seat. You are calling the shots.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful place to be.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It's yep.
And there's something to be said that it may not have felt the same if
right.
you had gone this whole other direction that you assumed it was going to be.
Everything is worth so much more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's really shaped you into a fine human being with empathy.
Right. Which, again, I hate to say it, but that kind of empathy as a songwriter is something that is truly priceless if you've had the fortunate/unfortunate opportunity to earn it.
Yeah.
You only get to a place after being kicked down, and you only get to a certain place, I think, in your writing too, once you've experienced so much. There's the writer that you are and the writer that you become, and so it's been fortunate for me.
Yeah.
The story has certainly, although it was hard to go through at times, it certainly enriched things more than I expected.
But you wear truth with a capital T, and there's no denying truth with a capital T.
Right.
And it's a resounding force. No one can deny. We all know it. When we hear truth, we know it.
Right. Whether it's in a song, no matter what it's coming at you, and it doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
But
we know it when we hear it.
It does come through. I agree. Yep.
Jamie Floyd, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I wish you all the success.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening, too. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. Your support means the world to me. Please take a minute and rate and review on iTunes. And thanks again. Bye.